All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Tyson Fury gets busted with loaded gloves, and a bunch of people are concocting a bunch of stories about how the photo is photoshopped, and we've dealt with that. But also, what you'll hear is that the state commission, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, would have caught Tyson Fury if Tyson Fury had loaded gloves. That is absolute and complete trash. And we're going to talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, we all know we've been going through this conversation about Tyson Fury having been accused by by members of Deontay Wilder's team, and by common sense and photographs that we see from both fights, that Tyson Fury was playing around with his gloves, right? Now, what you hear constantly from people in retort when they respond to that is they say, well, the Nevada State Athletic Commission was in the room. The Nevada State Athletic Commission was in the room. The WBC was in the room. When his hands were taped, they approved the gloves. So that means there couldn't be any cheating at all, right? Now, that's what you've heard. That, however, is not the case. And I want to explain to you guys why that is in this video. But before I do that, I got to say special thank you to everybody that continues to watch the videos. Thank you for your support. Everybody that goes to the Patreon and checks me out on Patreon. We had another video we put up yesterday. Thank you to everybody that is a channel member and everybody that supports, in the live streams that we do Monday through Friday in OG Boxing Talk with the Super Chats and the Cash Apps. Thank you guys so much for your support. But I need to explain to you something about the Nevada State Athletic Commission that might give you a clue as to why they have never caught anybody with loaded gloves. And in fact, multiple people who fought in the state of Nevada after they left the state of Nevada got caught by somebody else, but were never caught by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Right now, you would swear that organizations that say things like this. This is a quote from one of the older executive director of Nevada State Athletic Commission. I think his name was Klein. But this is what he says about the Antonio Margarito hand wraps, right? When Antonio Margarito, who had his last fight in Las Vegas, went on to fight in LA and got busted with loaded gloves. He said that he did not believe that. He said that this is what he said. He said, "I am pleased with the process in Nevada. Not only does it stop anyone who tries to do something like that," referring to Antonio Margarito, it also stops anyone who is thinking about doing it. Now, you have to be pretty arrogant to think that your policies are so tight that nobody would even think about trying to break them, right? But let's look. Now, that was some years ago. Recently, though, there was perfect example, and this is why I'm going to set it up with this example to show you how that is going to be that's the problem now and is going to be the problem moving forward. There's already been a case where Floyd Mayweather Jr., because of the money associated with his fights, made the Nevada State Athletic Commission allow him to get into a ring with gloves that had less padding in it, or smaller gloves than he should have been allowed to fight in. Floyd Mayweather Jr. did this, and he did it against Conor McGregor. Now watch. There's a fight, and then I'm going to compare. I'm going to talk about it in the context of Deontay Wilder. But first, I got to set it up with a firm example that you can relate to. The fight between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor, right, was against a multiple time Hall of Fame level boxer, against a guy that had never stepped in the ring before, never stepped into a boxing ring before in his, maybe he fought in the amateurs, but had never had a professional fight before, right, in Conor McGregor. This fight was supposed to be in the 154-pound weight division. Do you know what the glove weight is for a fight at 154 pounds in boxing? You are supposed to wear 10-ounce gloves. But Floyd Mayweather Jr. said that he didn't want to fight Conor McGregor in 10-ounce gloves. He wanted to fight Conor McGregor in 8-ounce gloves. Now, the executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, who was Bob Bennett, made a speech, or it might have been him or the chairman, gave a speech, right, which said how upset he was that he was being forced, that he was being put in this situation by Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor on a social media conversation that then put the Nevada State Athletic Commission in the spotlight and then forced them to allow Floyd Mayweather Jr. to break their rules. And again, the rule was that if you fight at 154 pounds and above, that you need to wear 8-ounce gloves. Floyd Mayweather Jr. said that the fans come to see a spectacular fight. They want to see knockouts. So he didn't want to fight in 8-ounce gloves. 10-ounce gloves. He wants 8-ounce gloves. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission folded. Now, why do you think that they folded? In a circumstance where what they're doing is clearly against their rules, right? 154-pound fight with gloves that are 8 ounces. Why did they do that? Well, a funny thing happened in 2016 to the way that the Nevada State Athletic Commission gets paid. They are now no longer funded out of the general fund of the state of Nevada. They are what you call self-funded. Now, this is very important because it was big news. This is big news in the MMA area, right? Because they were getting mad about all the fines and stuff. They were getting excessive fines. They were getting slapped on fighters for testing positive for this or that or whatever. They were like, hey, hold on, why are you charging us so much money? And what they started pointing to was the fact that now, after 2016, the Nevada State Athletic Commission became self-funded. Now, I have to explain to you what that means. Some of y'all might know what that means. Some of you might not. But let me explain it to you and then tell you very clearly how this puts the Nevada State Athletic Commission in a situation where they would be very, very hesitant to enforce their own rules in a situation where there is too much money on the line. Now, this is how it works. In most government entities, in all government entities, there is something called a budget, and you are paid out of a budget. But there are different funds within this budget. There can be capital fund, right? And money in the capital fund is earmarked to specifically pay for infrastructure related projects, right? So like the roads, or if they need to build a bridge, right? All that money in that fund called the capital fund goes to those specific purposes, right? The general fund is to pay for things that are not included in any specific fund. So that means that you can use that money that's set by the state can be used to pay for salaries of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Bob Bennett, who's the executive director, the different assistants that he has to work for him, right? The different people that go out to the fights and are in, are in the locker rooms observing what's going on, right? That was paid in the general fund. But after 2016, it was no longer the funds for the Nevada State Athletic Commission are no longer paid out of the general fund. They are what you call self-funded. So what does self-fund mean? Self-funding means this, that if you generate revenue from your department, you get your expenses paid out of the revenue that you generate. In the instance of the California State Athletic Commission, they are revenue producing. What is their revenue? Their revenue is the fees that they get from the gates for the fights that they sanction. So the bigger the fight, the more money that they get funded to fund their own operation. If they don't make any money, they don't get the funding. If they don't get the funding, they furlough employees, right? So let me give you the specifics of it as it relates to Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, I do believe, had a gate that was reported somewhere around $17 million. And the majority of those ticket sales were known very early on, because for some reason, all out of the blue, they decided to charge $1,500 for nosebleed tickets, and they all get bought up like that, right? So now they know how much money that they are receiving from these ticket sales. $17 million, top 2% of that money, because that's how much they get. There's an 8% charge on the gates. So 8% of whatever it is. If it was $100 million, they would get 8% of that, right? Goes into they give up 8% of that in taxes, right? So of $100 million, 8% is $8 million. And that goes, and 75% of that 8% goes to the general fund. The remaining 2% goes to fund the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So for the fight with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, they received roughly $800,000 in sanctioning fees directly to the Nevada State Athletic Commission from that fight. Now, why is that important? Because if they cancel a fight, then they don't get paid. If there's a glove, for example, if they were to find something where a glove, where something was taken, where somebody cheated or there was something off about it, would they actually cancel the fight? Their budget is $550,000 a year. And when you so they have to have these major fights in order for them to cover their own operating expenses, operating costs. So why would you assume that somebody who needs that money as much as the fighters do, or as much as the promoters do, would go out of their way to enforce their rules as hard, as strictly as they would in an incident where the revenue doesn't matter to them, right? So if you know, for example, that there's only going to be 2 pay-per-view events in Las Vegas, and you're going to cover your operating expenses for maybe 2 fights, right? Then why would you cancel those fights? Why would you do things where you open yourself up to the fight where you lose all that revenue? Literally, there's nothing else I can say about that. That has to be crystal clear. Bob Arum, the promoters that bring those fights, directly pay the salary of, or indirectly pay the salary of the promoters, of the sanctioning body, of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. The same thing goes for the sanctioning body. The sanctioning body gets a fee off of that fight. So in a scenario, so that's why you are not going to see Nevada State Athletic Commission catching a bunch of people up to the point where that whole event gets shut down, especially if it's in the case of boxing where there's only 1 or 2, maybe 3 fights a year that can generate that type of money. Look right now over there what's happening with Top Rank and the Nevada State Athletic Commission just in this year. This year, Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fight is going to be is going to cover their operating costs for the entire year, because there's not going to be any more fights with large crowds where you can get a lot of money off the gate receipts. Like, they're not getting any money off these gate receipts for these little fights that Top Rank is putting on, because there's no fans there. So the idea that the Nevada State Athletic Commission is just some innocent bystander sitting there that's overseeing these fights with nothing but their love of boxing on their mind is ridiculous. Again, the Nevada State Athletic Commission has never caught anybody for loaded gloves that I know of. And I can name to you a situation where money was on their head and they decided to overlook an obvious violation of their own rules and did a one-off just because there was so much money, and that money is directly connected to paying their salary. So I don't want to hear this, if the Nevada State Athletic Commission didn't catch him, that means he didn't do it nonsense, because their system isn't set. They're not incentivized by their own pay structure in order to catch them. So anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.